I'm sick of you guys always making fun of my gender.
What do I think of when I think of gender? I think of it being the most complicated thing ever.
Gender as an abstract concept is really difficult. Much easier to think of it in specifics.
Well, the first thing I think of when I hear the word gender is fuck!
For most people, gender is linked with sex and linked with sexuality on a binary of man and woman, nothing in between.
I don't even know what words to use anymore when it comes to gender. But I guess I think of politics, and I definitely think of like reproductive rights and other medical issues that arise when thinking about people of any gender.
What is gender? Is it these stereotypes or something close to these stereotypes? I mean, if they had there's something feminine, some feminine aesthetic thing, but you also can't quite pin it down.
When I first hear gender, I think, are you a boy or a girl? Some people are biologically men or women, and then some people view themselves as not what their biological stance is. And if that's what you feel, and if that's how you are mentally programmed, then that is your gender.
I think I define gender as someone's outward emotive expression of themselves. Not necessarily binary, not necessarily anything, just an outward expression of self.
Because I don't really have a better word for it, I identify as bigender. That seems to be the thing. For I wake up one day and it's like, I am okay with this body I've got, and the next day I wake up and it's like, no, this is the worst thing ever. Why breasts? Why?
Gender, for me, kind of means like a confinement. It's kind of like I am intrinsically like confined to these boundaries. And even though consciously I realize how weird and arbitrary they are, they're still influencing my life. Like, I don't know how to tackle them yet.
There's always this feeling of illegitimacy with my gender identity, that this nagging suspicion that I'm really not quote-unquote special. I'm just a female, I'm just actually a woman, but I'll never be a woman.
Regardless of anything else, I identify very femme, so to me that means getting very excited about makeup and dresses and, you know, things that I was going to just call stupid, but that I don't actually think are stupid, that I actually think are really fun and interesting.
I kind of feel shame sometimes for presenting or acting in a certain way, even though it's, you know, who I feel that I am, and I know that it doesn't really hurt anyone.
My gender unconsciously is a guy, is like a boy, whatever. My gender very, very consciously is I don't know. And so whenever people ask me for like pronouns, I always say like, well, I use, you know, I
Love it. Love being a girl.
I identify as male, but honestly that's only sort of a matter of convenience for me, because it's easier than trying out any alternatives for me, because I'm comfortable enough saying, you know, I'm a boy, I'm male-bodied, and just letting people, you know, sort of take that and run with it as they will.
I'm like pretty solidly perceived as male, and I guess that's something that makes me kind of uneasy, because I forget that I'm perceived as male a lot. But I think that the disidentification from maleness really came from like an understanding that I have been femme all of my life. I have experienced trauma at the hands of men, of gendered men.
Gender is just another emotion. It's just another way of expressing who you are.
So, what it means for me, I don't really know, because I've never really thought really hard about what is my gender, because the chromosomes I was born with seem to make sense for my body and my mindset and my outward belief in life.
It shouldn't matter sort of what words and names are attached to anything, because it shouldn't matter how somebody sort of acts or presents, and not just in the context of gender, in the context of anything really, as long as their actions aren't harmful to other people.
I always think of myself as a princess, and, you know, a princess inherently has a female connotation to it, but, like, that's how I describe myself, you know? And so when I think about a tiara, it's like, I wish I could just walk around wearing this sparkly tiara all the time.
My gender is dagger. The shiny, sparkly beauty of it, but also, like, really fucking dangerous. My gender is sharp and makes people feel uncomfortable a lot of times.
I've explored my gender through drawing, because for a long time I identified as sort of androgynous, and I felt like all of the things that I had assumed about gender suddenly came crashing down, and I needed to, and I was exploring things about my sexuality at the same time as all of that, so it was very like, when it comes to thinking about drawing my gender, it has everything to do with flowers and sexual organs and the intersections of those two things.
You know, interpret it as you will. Try not to be too Freudian about it.